I'm here today.
I'm here today.
I'm here today.
I'm here today.
I'm here today. Are you?
Are you?
Are you?
At DPS, attendance is important. That's why we're challenging all schools to increase and improve their daily attendance. So I ask again, we're here today. Are you?
Are you?
For Black History Month, we're talking to DPS principals about how their schools represent the people they're named after. First up, we have Luis Troy. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Cheney Good. I've been a principal here at DPS for over 10 years. I've been in administration for over 20 years. I was first at the Evan Joe Brown Middle School, and then for 5 years, and then I've been at Luis Troy for another 5 years. So I'm just happy to be here.
Tell us about Luis Troy.
Luis Troy is a elementary or pre-K 6 elementary school. It was, of course, named after Luis Troy. She was a renowned educator here in Dayton. At our school, we have roughly about 350 students, all from the surrounding community. We're known as being the DOPE Tigers. DOPE stands for Dedicated to Overcoming Obstacles, Persevering, and Empowering. Ethics is one of the best schools here in the city.
Why was Luis Troy important?
Luis Troy is important because she was actually the first Black educator that pretty much started in the DPS school system when it was after it was integrated. She is also one of the founding members of the Dayton Charter of the NAACP, as well as she helped found the Women's Association, which is now known as the YWCA. So I think it speaks to her character as being one of the renowned African-American figure here in the Dayton area. I like to also mention that she also taught the likes of Paul Lawrence Dunbar, William O. Stokes, which he was an attorney here in Dayton, as well as the engineer James Parsons. So she has some renowned students in her class.
What do students learn about Luis Troy in your building, and how do you celebrate her during Black History Month?
Well, I think one thing that students learn about Luis Troy is that her character. Being that we are known as the DOPE Tigers, I think it goes without saying that she stood for what DOPE stands for. She was dedicated, she overcame obstacles, she persevered, and she empowered each other. And we teach our kids just that. We teach them how to be almost like her, how to be dedicated. What are some ways that they can show that they're dedicated? They can come to school every day, right? So they can show they're dedicated to really being a part of the DPS experience, as well as making sure that they're growing in the right direction. Now, as far as celebrating Luis Troy during Black History Month, she is one of the, of course, starting points that we lead or we kick off our Black History Month celebration. So we always share with families and friends about her life, about her history here in Dayton, because a number of folks probably don't know who Luis Troy is.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about Luis Troy or your school?
I think the final points regarding Luis Troy is that she certainly displays all the characteristics that we're trying to instill in our kids. We're certainly trying to make sure that they have high ethical and moral responsibility, that they understand what that means. Aside from being that they're dedicated, they overcome obstacles, they persevere in power, that they're certainly showing their presence in school. We also want to make sure that we are attempting to make sure that all students are being educated and that they are going to do their very best.
It's a very special project because we have young people voting for the first time in their lives. We've gone in, we've registered, we have almost 200 young people here to be a part of that whole process.
I just want to say I appreciate everybody coming out. This is so important for our children to see that adults in their community really appreciate them taking that first step to adulthood. I want to appreciate all of our elected officials, all of our candidates for coming out. And as we get down here, I want you to really understand what you're doing. Even though we go to different schools, we're in different communities, we're here together for one cause. And I want you to understand that today, you take that first step to understanding that this is your community.
All right, let's round them up. Let's go.
Voting is a big part of our nation, to vote future leaders, to vote people that can help improve our nation in different ways. It's just important for us to vote, as young people especially, to vote for the leaders that will have us set for the next couple of years. It felt really important to me because I feel like I'm taking that next step in my life, being able to vote for a leader.
You vote for candidates to benefit you, your livelihood, your family, and your community. Those 4 reasons. Not because someone is Democrat or Republican, male or female, tall or short, black or white. Those don't matter. What matters is the aspect of those individuals that you think will create high quality conditions for you and your family as well as your community.
We hear you, Belmont!
We hear your commitment to learning, and we're here to extend the challenge. That's why we're asking every student, family, and staff member to be present and be engaged.
When we show up, we build a foundation here. And when we show up, we build a future.
I'm here today. I'm here today. I'm here today. I'm here today. We are here today!
We believe in the power of showing up.
So we're here today. Are you?
Are you?
Very first note.
All right, I just saw Ms. Wood. Let me know when y'all see it logged in and we'll get going.
Miss Kidd, Miss Garen, I presume. How y'all doing today?
Hey, don't do look capable. I just made his own too.
Y'all tighten up down there, tighten up down there. Uh-oh. How you doing, Mr. Anderson? She not paying attention.
Well, there's technology software. So, again,
Everybody ready?
Man, you know I ain't signing nothing.
I now call to order this February 18th business meeting. Madam Treasurer, may we have a roll call?
President Goodwin,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Present.
Ms. Wick,
Present.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Present.
Mr. Lacy,
Here.
Dr. Bailey,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Present.
Mr. Scott.
I'm sure he'll join us later. All right,
7-8.
pledge allegiance. All right. All right, Dr. Lawrence, go ahead and give us a couple of district event updates, please.
Mission.
Oh, sorry. Mission. Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and empower. Our vision is to inspire, educate, and empower scholars for a lasting impact. And our purpose is to cultivate a supportive and engaging educational experience. Go ahead now, Dr. Lawrence.
Thank you so much. Well, if you were not at the cheerleading competition last year, our first at Belmont, it was amazing. The most energy I've seen in quite some time at a high school event. So we have the Ohio OASSA Cheer State Championships and Stivers School for the Arts. Cheer team is headed to state. So we're really excited about that. It'll be February 21st. The performance time will be 6:35, and they will be in Dublin High School at the junior high. So we look forward to it. If you have any questions, please email Victoria Jones, the Chief of Athletics, and she will get you that information. So we're excited about Stivers School for the Arts, headed to the state championship, and then tickets are $15 for adults, $5 for seniors. That would be, if it's 55 and over, that would be me.
You made it.
And kids 6 and under are free. Thank you, Millennium. All right, and Math Olympics, a reminder, March 15th, Math Olympics, that's a Saturday at 9 o'clock. Look forward to seeing all the parents and students out. It's going to be an exciting competition at Belmont High School. And if you have any questions, please contact Gina Edie or Carrie Vaughn. They're part of the curriculum department, and this is one of our biggest events that we have all year, so we are really excited about that. The kids are practicing, and we look forward to seeing them on March 15th, Saturday morning at Math Olympics.
Thank you.
I was a coach. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for reminding me that I was a coach, and Mr. Smith will say that I was handed a championship. Well, E.J. Brown was 3-time champion. Vera was the coach for the first 2 years, and she gave me the team, and we won it the 3rd year. So
you mean you just had the same kids?
Yes. Had the same kids, and we did win. All right.
All right, your first presentation.
I'm really excited about this. 2 members of the academic team, tons of respect and professional admiration for them and the work that they do. Keisha Sheehy, our Chief Academic Officer, and Aaron Dooley, our Chief of College and Career Readiness, are coming up to present and give an overview of the 2025 course of study. And I think Matt Folker is in the audience too. I think he's going to do some backup support.
Dang, it went down. Is that you, Ms. Sheehy? Very excited for this presentation.
Yes.
This is the first one we are getting since you've taken leadership, so this is really good.
That is correct.
Anticipation is all-time high.
Good
Theme
evening.
music when they come up.
Good evening, Dr. Goodwine. Board members, today we are going to present our course of study for the upcoming school year. So, our course of study this year has been streamlined, and the priorities that we streamlined came through from a curriculum audit that we had this year. It was a collaboration with ABL Integrated Insights. They came into the district and went through our schools, our data, and gave us a comprehensive report on some areas that are, of course, they gave us some glows and they gave us some grows. And we are now focusing on enhancing our post-secondary readiness and success. So one of the main things, the first thing that we did to capitalize on an opportunity for growth, they went through everything and showed us that we had low course intensity that would be predictive of post-secondary success. So that's an opportunity for our growth. So what we did last year was we expanded our AP and our College Credit Plus, and we just kind of got our feet wet with that. And so this year we're going to continue to refine that. One of the things that you will notice is that we eliminated honors classes in ELA and math because they were competing with the advanced placement and the College Credit Plus. So to reduce the competition and improve curriculum alignment, we have eliminated honors courses in those areas. And we will actively recruit our Miss Dooley right now. She has everyone submitting lists, and we have come up with ways that we can actively recruit to increase our participation.
Excuse me, Ms. Sheehy. Board Member Reiner had a question for you on that slide.
Thank you,
Yes.
President Goodwine. Can you define for me, so I know that I'm interpreting this correctly, what is low course intensity? I think I know what it means, but I want to make sure that I am on the same page as you.
Okay. So what we found out was when we looked at our honors classes, there wasn't much difference between our honors classes and the regular class. And so to make sure that we have high rigor, the AP and the College Credit Plus, they have standardized course content that we know meet the post-secondary requirements, and they earn credit for that.
So is the AP track and the honors track, is that the low course? Or is the low course the not honors?
The honors classes.
It is the honors, okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you, Madam President.
The next opportunity of growth for us was we identified that many of our students graduate without the GPA that's predictive of post-secondary success. So we want to make sure that we use our multi-tiered systems of support to address this. And in order to do that, we are making sure that every student has access to intervention. The addition of reading labs and algebra labs for ELA and math will occur during the day at our high schools, and the reading labs will happen in our middle schools. So our courses have been redesigned to better align with our post-secondary success for our college and career courses. We are eliminating some things so that we don't have overlap in our college and career course offerings, and there's more focused pathways to ensure students are career and college ready. Now that we have streamlined our course of study, our next steps in implementation will be actively monitoring the student enrollment in advanced courses and making sure they have supports to be successful, which will be provided through our continuous support of MTSS interventions, ongoing review of college and career course effectiveness, and then, of course, commitment to ensuring all of our students graduate and are prepared for their future.
All right, so I get the pleasure, bring that up just a little bit. I get the pleasure to talk about the exciting new programs for career tech that we are planning on for next school year. At Belmont High School, we are planning on the metal fabrication, also known as sheet metal. We're bringing in hopefully a medical assisting program and a teacher Academy program, which we once had, and we are trying to bring that back. With those new programs, we still plan to offer the programs that were there this year, which would be the phlebotomy, which is an industry credential only program, and the early childhood education program out at Rosa Parks. So that's what we are planning on at Belmont for next school year. Ponence, there is no new programming. The building is full, and we're really, really happy with the programs that we've got. We're just going to strengthen them as we go. Paul Laurence Dunbar will have a innovative program, braiding entrepreneurship, which we're very, very excited about. And of course, we still plan to offer urban agriculture, phlebotomy, which is once again an industry credential only, and our early childhood education program. At Meadowdale, they're growing. We're going to be bringing in the aviation program, and then still offering the programs that we have there currently. Sorry, so that's Belmont. So we've done Belmont, Ponence, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and then Meadowdale. So the aviation plus the 8 programs that we currently have there. Next slide. We're really excited about Mount Street. We're really starting to dive into that realm as well for those particular students so that they get that diploma plus something. So we're going to be bringing in patient care technician, which is an ICO as well, along with the phlebotomy and the early childhood education if they so choose to join into those programs. Stivers, no new programming at this time, but we're going to keep the 3 programs that we have there. And then last but not least, Thurgood Marshall, we plan to add in a legal studies program, which would be an innovative program as well, or pathway, as well as keeping the 2 programs, the phlebotomy and the early childhood education that's offered at that position as well. And those are the offerings that we have, or we're planning on for Career Tech Department for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you, and then I'll pass it over to you, Mr. Walker. Okay, so first one here, in the past, we've gotten a full booklet that kind of gave us the details of all this. Will we be getting that?
Yeah, it's in production as we speak, so.
She's probably referring to that one. The program study.
Oh, the program study.
Program study booklet. Okay. Yes, okay. Question on some individual schools. Thurgood Marshall, 2 years ago, we tried to put in the IT pathway. We were hopeful, I don't think the teachers kind of finished what they were going through at UD, is that correct?
Well, it's a project
You got,
right now.
you gotta come to the mic so they can hear you. That's the part, because it's the IT piece of it, since IT is kind of a field that continues to grow, and I see that we have it at one location, but we tried to invest in it at Thurgood 2 years ago. So the question is kind of what happened with that and
What Thurgood Marshall has right now is Project Lead the Way, which is not Career Tech. Ms. Lewis has implemented year 1 of 3 different Project Lead the Way pathways that are being coordinated really by the academic team, not so much the Career Tech side of the house, and IT is one of those 3.
Okay, because I'll reiterate, one of the complaints that when I first seen these were that Paul Laurence Dunbar and Thurgood, they had so few offerings, and I know we've been trying to build them up in those ways, just to continue to see the investment in those schools is really huge when we know we got a good amount of population that do attend those 2.
Right.
I had a question regarding Ponence too. Exercise, I've talked to Dr. Lawrence about exercise science that we did have at that school at one point, and then I believe the teacher moved to Meadowdale and we took it over there. Are there any plans to bring exercise science back to Ponence in any way?
Not at this time.
Can you guys explore, because I know there is at least one teacher that is trying to come there for that program, and knowing that we have a lot of individuals at that school who are involved in the athletic piece of it, it's just a natural field for them. So if you guys could explore the exercise science, that would be good. Stiver's question about the Career Tech, because I've gotten many questions myself about what does that mean for individuals who audition to go into Stivers? If they're coming in a Career Tech pathway, what is that interest like?
A lot of the kids in the 3 Career Tech pathways are filled by students who have auditioned into the school. In the event that there are available seats in those 3 pathways, which start in grade 11, If a student says, I'm a 10th grader at X high school, and I want to be in technical theater, I want to be in photography, I want to be in digital design, and there's available seat, they can have that seat.
Okay, I want to be clear. So you can't audition as a freshman for a career tech position, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You sound like you got something to add. What you got?
There's technically no
There's no-
audition.
yeah.
That's against law. So it is, if we have an opening and a kid applies for it, then they get that seat. There is no technical auditions.
What if two people apply for the same opening? That's
Then
one
it goes
seat.
to a lottery system. If there's only one seat and there's two people, it has to go to the lottery.
And how do you guys conduct the lottery?
So, real high tech. I go into a computer system, I do a name generator wheel, put all the names in, and then I shuffle it, and then I hit however many times I need for one seat. I would hit it one time, the person whose name pops up, they get that offering.
Okay,
It's
and
kind of cute how they do it.
Is there like a deadline that people have to get this stuff in if they're trying to be considered for such?
Yes,
thing?
so on all the acceptance letters that I send out, it tells them exactly what program they're being accepted to, and then it gives them a 2-week window with the date. They have either my email or my phone to get a hold of them. We email that to them because addresses were always bouncing back and it was taking too long to get to them, so we do it by email. If we have not heard from the family within a week, we also start reaching out to them. We start making phone calls, so that way, if we have to rescind that offer, we can say, hey, we've sent you an email, we've called you a couple times, we haven't heard anything back from you. That's why we rescinded your offer.
How does that work for, on the hypothetical you gave for a person at another school who is interested in the seat there? Where is that information for them for these postings of if something comes available for them to be considered? That's kind of where I'm trying to hear how that lottery works on that.
So we don't actually have a place where it says theater production has 2 seats available. We have the application open and it's live, so you can just apply for those positions, and then I will reach out. If there is no spot, I always reach out as well. So for example, Ponus is getting ready to close for next school year for incoming 9th graders. Anybody who has applied, I will send out an email to them, even if they got accepted or not, letting them know that Ponus is closed. And then I will also go through all the other opportunities that we have at these schools that have availability for them.
Can I request, it's more for Dr. Lawrence at this point, an actual deadline so people know that after this point, I've missed it at that piece, just a piece. So our external communications to our families that are considering any of these schools, they kind of know if you haven't applied by this point, you've kind of missed that window.
Yeah, we did that and answered that.
All right, and Mr. Walker.
Thank you. So my question is more so, when looking at new programs and buildings, how is that decided? Is it student interest? Is it adult-driven, principal-driven? Like, what does that look like?
Yes, and with a little bit further than that. So this has actually started back in October. We started sitting down with principals, guidance counselors, and we started having conversations about what is offered in the CTE realm. So the state tells us what pathways we have available that are high, not high interest, but high job rates out there for us. And then we start having those conversations about what could we possibly do. Then we have tasked the principals to go back and have conversations with their students on, hey, would this be interesting? So that's how the sheet metal program came about. We found out that there's a huge interest of construction in the trades over at the Belmont side. So that's why we ended up building that. So it was a conversation of what are we allowed to do at the state? What does the building principal guidance counselors think? Also the students as well. And then can it fit within the realm of the CTE world?
Okay, I know going out a few times to buildings, some students expressed as far as barber programs. You knew that was coming.
Yeah. So that is something that we are very interested in. We've explored. Right now, where we currently sit is the number of hours that somebody has to get a barber's license, and when they can start accumulating those hours makes it difficult for anyone in the state of Ohio to actually open up a barbering program. Okay. There has been talk about legislation being passed to drop that number of hours to be more like cosmetology, that 1,500 hours. If and when that should happen, then we will definitely be exploring a barber program.
Okay, and then as far as new program offerings in building, how is the space for those like configured? Like, how is that decided? Like, is it like, okay, for instance, Meadowdale has a new program coming in, but where would that go in Meadowdale with that program?
So that's a conversation with the building principal on those particular pieces and rearranging what we've got to be better suited to meet more programming. So we sat down as a team and said, this program could actually move here because it needs less space, opening up this larger space for a program that needs more room. So, you know, Principal Davis over there, ourselves, we've sat and looked at our facilities and said, how can we best utilize those? When it comes to other programs like medical, some of that's dictated to us by the state on requirements that we have to hit and things of that nature.
Okay, and then, I don't know, Chief Dooley, if this is for you or Chief Sheehy. So with regards, or maybe you, the College Credit Plus piece, are students taking advantage of that? I know we have the MOUs with the different colleges. Like, I know we did one recently with Central State. How's that going? Is the interest there and things like that?
Yeah, actually, we had our highest enrollment ever in College Credit Plus this year. About almost 255 kids enrolled this semester. We have 2 English classes that are offered through Central at Dunbar only. Most of the other CCP is through St. Clair. We have a Spanish offering at Stivers that runs through the University of Cincinnati. And some of that's based on the person who is the instructor. Most of the courses offered in our buildings are just basically your core liberal arts classes. And then the kids who are on campus are able to take advantage of a lot of the, you know, unique classes that are there.
Okay. And then lastly, you know, getting this now, this is 2 years since the last one. How is this going to be different from what Ford NGL comes back and says? Like, will this change again next year? Like, what does that whole process look like?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for Ford NGL, and maybe Superintendent Minor wants to speak to this. Basically, I think the idea is to build upon what we have, not to take away and restart. Because quite honestly, a lot of what we do is dependent upon the staff members in the program and in the classroom. And that also is one of the factors that we consider when starting up a program. What's the potential that we're actually be able to find someone to teach this particular class? So my understanding is that when Ford NGL comes in, it's to enhance, to align business partners with the programs that we have, but not to undo and restart. We have no interest in doing that.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Smith?
All right, first I want to go back to what you said, Ms. Chief Dooley, and I do not want us to miss out on lifting that up. That is amazing to have 255, you said, students enrolled. I remember years ago when we were having luncheons and dinners at Sinclair with prospective families trying to tell them about this, and we were nowhere near the enrollment we have today. So I just want to lift up you guys in the work that's been going on. Sometimes we throw numbers around, but we don't throw the context out of where we were. And so I want to lift that up, and that is a tremendous move forward in the number of students that we have in these programs. And second, I want to go back to what you just said. What does our staffing look like? How are we situated for staffing to make sure that we can fill these programs as we are currently today?
Well, one of our ideas, you want to talk about the sheet metal?
Yeah, I can talk about sheet metal. So when we were coming up with the idea of skills trade, we had a meeting with the skills out on Poe Road, the skills group.
AFL-CIO.
Yeah, the AFL-CIO.
Good
Sorry,
people.
couldn't get that out there. And we wanted to try and get them in as soon as possible. And sheet metal was the one that said, hey, we can work with you. We'll work with you immediately. They had most opportunities for our kids. So our idea here is we actually have somebody in-house that works within sheet metal who is excited to potentially teach the students. He went through another career center here in the Dayton area, and he wants to give back on top of still working in his sheet metaling position. So it just needs to be one of those things where we figure out how we can utilize the people in-house that we have to teach and then go back to do the job that we've hired them to do for our district currently. So.
Okay. With that, a follow-up, and more so towards Dr. Lawrence, is that something that you foresee needing board action to kind of make go forward?
think if we want to scale this up and we talk about it in cabinet, Board Member Smith, yes, because this is just the beginning of utilizing our in-house 2,300 employees to kind of cross lines and work with each other. There's lots of people in HVAC, and as you know, as a board, we pay lots of money for HVAC, and those technicians are hard to find. Plumbing, roofing, carpentry. We've had this conversation in operations. That's why I'm really proud that operations sits on cabinet every Monday morning. And when those folks get ready to retire, we have a few that are out there, they're saying, hey, we'd love to come back and teach in that space. So great question. We want to scale this up. So yes, in the future, yeah, I do require this, think this will require board action.
You better be moving sooner than later then.
Right. We're moving on. I got you guys on as electricians.
That's all I have. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Board Member Witt.
Thank you. I always appreciate the thoughtfulness of the work. It really is lovely to see it all on display. I have had the pleasure of working with the Student Senate leaders, and I love those kids. They're really a lot of fun. And when I get to talk to them one-to-one and what they and their peers would like to have, we talk about life skills a lot, honestly. So I'm making some suggestions because I'm creative. So I'd love to see some places where we have spaces where the kids come and they learn about ironing a shirt, doing the silly things, not silly things, but the life skills classes that we had. And that also makes me think about an entrepreneur space where we have a beautiful entrepreneur hub at the arcade over here. And because all of our kids today seem to be really engaged with being their own people. I mean, social media has changed the way they live, the way they work, and how it could be really spaces where we engage the kids differently. And I think there's an appetite for it. And I know we're always trying to make these things exciting for the kids, so those are just my couple of suggestions. And I think the life skills is where we talk about a lot. If we listen to our employers and people, they want our kids to have those soft skills. And that means a lot of different things in a lot of different spaces, and how we can really develop a curriculum around helping our kids cultivate some of those more important soft skills. So anyway, I think I think they'd love it too. So yes, so thank you, I appreciate it.
I will add that the braiding program at Dunbar, which is the Innovative Pathway, will have that element embedded in it.
Perfect.
So 2 of the classes will actually be like the microbiology, the fundamentals of cutting and styling, but the other 2 classes would be salon operations and marketing principles.
Right, and that's what I'm
So-
talking about, just those skills, those things like what it takes to manage. I say, we call them life skills, but it's managing our budget, but then you can apply that to managing a business and how we operate, and then understanding how a business operates. And I think there's an appetite for that. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
The farming too.
Mr. Lacy.
Are all of these career tech pathways, are all of them 11 and 12, or are some just 12, or?
So we're actually getting kind of getting innovative on that ourselves. The state's really starting to push lower, even lower, 9, 8, 7. Where we are currently at is Meadowdale and Ponance are 10, 11, 12. Stivers, 11, 12. Dunbar is going to be a mix. The urban agriculture will be 10, 11, 12. The braiding entrepreneurship will be 11, 12. The sheet metal, what we're going to call metal fabrication, that's actually going to be 10, 11. To hopes to get them out and do some work-based learning here at DPS, their 12th grade year, like a pre-apprenticeship program. So we're trying to be as innovative as we possibly can when we're looking at these particular programs, but the vast majority of our programs, because of Meadowdale and Ponance, the way they're structured, are 10, 11, 12.
And how early in the year before the program starts should they be applying?
They should be applying now.
As 8th graders.
As 8th graders. And then for any new program that we have another application. There's actually 2 applications out there. So put that on public record, is if you are an 8th grader, you are looking at the 8th grade application to become a 9th grader next year. If you are a current 9th, 10th, 11th grader looking to go, because we can bring in 10th graders for next year to start a program at Ponence of Meadowdale. We can bring those in because they haven't started. But any new programming, a lot of times we can bring in 10, 11 graders as well, because we have to try and get that program kick-started. So there's a kind of a, everything kind of gets smushed together, and we can't do the whole program. So we can allow for 11th graders sometimes to get in there as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Smith?
Yes, with that, I have a follow-up with that piece, because that was the second thing that I was curious about. One, I think getting that information out to our families, Dr. Lawrence, I think would be great, because with the changes that have occurred, I mean, even with some families, if they're not paying attention, there are families that are just seeing that Meadowdale has career programs. There are families that are just seeing that there are programs now in all of our schools. I think I just saw somebody earlier on social media say, hey, well, it's terrible that Belmont and Dunbar don't have these additions like STEM or CTC on this thing. So getting that piece, I do think putting that concerted effort out there would be huge. Secondly, looking at, since there are programs that start either in 10th grade or 11th grade, and this is more so a Dr. Lawrence kind of thing, what are we looking at in attracting people to a building if they cannot be in that program yet? Or how are we making sure that we do not have situations or do not exacerbate situations where if I'm a parent and my child wants to go to this program that starts in 11th grade, then what do I do 9th and 10th grade? And my fear is that if I'm a parent and I go, well, I want my child to be in this career tech program at Stivers, it starts in 11th grade. What do I do in 9th grade? I'm either sending my kid to a school with the intention that they're going to leave this school, which then creates a rift in that building, or I'm just not going to send my kid to Dayton Public Schools. So I think putting our heads together to see how do we put these ramp ups into it, how do we kind of create these things. I know we've worked on some of it at the middle school with creating these levels of understanding what you will get to in high school. We've seen it at the high school visitation days, but putting those pieces in where when we're getting that information out, a parent isn't thinking, okay, well, I want my child to be in this program, but it doesn't start until 10th grade, so maybe I'll go to the STEM school instead. Maybe I'll send my kid to Carroll or Alter instead. How are we making that piece? And I think that isn't a for today thing, but I think that's something for us as a district to look at, because I wouldn't want parents having to make those decisions during the middle of their child's high school career.
I actually just sent Dr. Lawrence and Associate Superintendent Minor a question on that, because I have a parent at Stivers who they want their child to be able to be a part of the automotive program, but they also don't want to lose the arts they have at Stivers.
Right.
And they're in that in-between part right here where automotives don't start until 10th grade, I believe, and their child is really acclimated to Stivers, and they're like, it's a shame that I have to lose this part to do that one, and they have to go through this whole entry piece. So it's timely. Your question is already something that is on their radar. I'm trying to figure out.
You're absolutely right. You did send that. Associate Superintendent Minor and I are sitting next to each other at Jackson Center. When I saw the email, it will be part of our core academic conversation, and also, I think you're really speaking of like a crosswalk or a bridge to make sure we hold those students until they want to get into those CTE programs that we have, and that's definitely a legitimate space. And we will certainly explore and investigate that. And about the braiding, I'm really excited about that. I think Board Member Smith and I will be the first candidates for braiding.
You, huh? Awesome. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yep, Board Member Smith and I, braiding.
Are you and Walter going to get braids?
No.
I am.
Okay.
I am going to get
Hey,
braids.
I'll tell you, I went to the Ponence for the cosmetology program, and they get you out. They might get you a little wet, but they get you together. You live out for nice and fresh. $5 holler, get you going. All right. So I don't see any other questions. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of you.
All right. Our next presentation is from our very own internal auditor. Come on.
Oh, she got music.
Man.
I
I thought you got some music too. Like, woo.
No, just start us off with some energy. I like it.
All right. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, community members, and staff. I am extremely excited today to give an update from the Internal Audit Department. I have been busy, and I am excited to share some of those updates with you. If we can go to the next slide. Here I have just a high-level agenda of some of the things that I'm hoping to discuss. As a high-level overview, I'm not going to read these off. My goal is for you all to walk away with not only a better understanding of what internal audit is at DPS, but also to walk away with an understanding about what the audit committee looks like and the structure and the importance of that, and then also to understand what I've been up to and what I hope to continue to proceed with in an internal audit plan. So we can go ahead and I will have opportunities for questions at the end. However, I noticed that there could be opportunities of questions during the presentation, so I look forward to fielding those as well. Yeah, go ahead and skip. Even though we've already highlighted our mission and vision and purpose statement, I want to go ahead and reiterate it again because the why of DPS drives the why of internal audit. So the mission of DPS is to inspire, educate, and empower. The vision is to inspire, educate, and empower scholars for a lasting impact, and our purpose is to cultivate a supporting and engaging educational experience. I have also listed on this slide our 5 C's, which represent some of our values at DPS, and those are included in our listed here as culture, customer service, communication, collaboration, and commitment. By no means does this encapsulate all of our values, however, they are important ones to us and to our organization and staff, and I intend to uphold those as well. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. Like I said, the why of DPS drives the why of internal audit. My mission as the internal auditor is to provide value-added independent assurance services that assist DPS in achieving its goals, assess and improve risk management, internal controls, and operational processes, while promoting accountability, compliance, and effective resource use. The reporting structure is I will report on a quarterly basis to the audit committee, and those meetings will be in person. And I will discuss more about what that looks like in the future slide. And I will report to the full board as well, obviously on an ongoing basis, whether that is in business meetings or in board retreats or in other areas that may be helpful. As internal audit, I am required to adhere to a lot of different compliance, as I know most other departments and employees are here at DPS. But I do think it's worth mentioning and making sure that the board and the community is aware of what those specifically are. To start off, as a foundational level, I am required to adhere to federal, state, and local laws and regulations. By no means is this restricted to, but it definitely includes the Ohio Revised Code. I am also required to be compliant with principles, standards, and ethics from the Institute of Internal Auditors. The Institute of Internal Auditors is a global actual governing body for internal auditors across the U.S. and obviously the rest of the world. And they have approximately 52 standards and 15 governing principles, which I'm supposed to abide by and adhere to on a day-to-day operational level. And those things are extremely helpful to not only make sure that I'm doing the best that I can for Dayton, but I'm also doing the best as an internal auditor as well. And then the last thing that I have on here for compliance is that I'm supposed to adhere to DPS policies and procedures. It's really important if I'm going to audit a policy and I'm going to audit a procedure or a process that I'm also adhering to those as well. We can go to the next slide. So what are some of the things that internal audit can do for DPS? Internal audit traditionally has 2 primary projects and services that they can provide, and I intend to provide those for DPS. Those include advisory and audit projects. There's a few key differences between the two, and I have those listed out here, and I'll just kind of run through them quickly. The goal for an advisory service would be to provide insight to improve a process or system. Oftentimes, advisory services are done as a preventative or a preemptive or proactive measure. So sometimes it's to look at a process holistically and then to dive deeper into the process that may have the most pain points. Sometimes it's, which I'll get into the outputs, but sometimes it's to create and give an opportunity for trainings about what risk is and how our culture and our environment at DPS addresses risk on an ongoing basis. Versus an audit, the goal is to provide assurance on effectiveness for processes or systems or whatever I'm specifically reviewing. So oftentimes where advisory services cover a breadth of things, an audit assurance project is very detailed, and it requires testing and fieldwork and a lot of sampling and data collection as well. The output for advisory projects, as you may assume, is it can vary based off of different projects, because when an internal auditor does an advisory project, it is agreed upon whatever those deliverables or outputs are with management or whoever is requesting that service. It's helpful so that just for everyone to be aware, there is a process for that. However, because the process is very fluid, as advisory projects do change, that I currently am still undergoing and creating those procedural documents. But for a audit, there is a very specific deliverable, and that will always be an audit report. An audit report will highlight some of the background information for the area that is being reviewed. It will also highlight work performed by myself, and if I have anybody else on the team that has been doing any type of work for that area. And then it will also highlight conclusions. So any recommendations that I believe are appropriate for DPS to consider implementing and for management to respond to. Management will have an opportunity for any recommendation to have a response so that they can either accept and choose to move forward with a recommendation, or they can choose to say, not at this time, and here's why. The board will be made aware, and the audit committee, of course, will be made aware of that response. Timing advisory projects, it does vary based off of the project itself. However, audits are traditionally between 6 and 10 weeks. The phases for an audit, like I mentioned, they're pretty specific. There's a planning, fieldwork, and reporting phase. These phases, although this very specific details and nuances of what I'll be performing and doing in those phases can change, but those phases will always stay relatively consistent. And then again, for advisory, those phases may change as well. I have at the bottom of some of these slides reference documents. Those refer to different documents that you have in front of you, board members, and also can be made available upon public request for a public records request, yeah. Specifically, the reference document that is on this slide refers to the procedurals document. I just want to make sure that the board is aware of the steps that I take to ensure that the reports that I am doing and the work that I am doing is quality work. And it reflects accurately the process or the system or the area that I'm reviewing in greater depth. I have the same values of integrity, making sure that it's a quality process for consulting or advisory projects. However, because that is more fluid in nature, I have not established, again, like I said, that set procedures for what that should look like. But that may come soon. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So, as I mentioned, the internal auditor, myself, will report to the audit committee on a quarterly basis. These meetings will be in person, and it will be open to the community and staff members if they would like to participate or listen in on those conversations and meetings. They will be on the fourth Tuesday of the month following quarter end. So at this time, that is January, April, and July, and October. The time will be approximately 5:30 to 7 p.m. The hope is to get business individuals in the door as committee members specifically who are able to help and provide guidance for myself and the department, and of course to advise on next steps that the board can then further approve on and vote on. The application for the process for audit committee members, because we are hoping that the community will be engaged and excited to be a part of this process in this department at DPS. The application window will be approximately 4 weeks between tomorrow and March 18th. The selection window will be March 19th through April 1st, and the initial first meeting with the entire audit committee as it stands will be April 22nd, 2025. The reference documents that you have in front of you are just for your awareness. The first is actually not one that you have in front of you, but is on board docs. It is the audit committee charter. That document further details the responsibilities that the audit committee assumes, as well as the clarity that they do not vote. They specifically add a governance layer. However, they are not my governing authority. My authority would be still the board, who obviously has the ability to vote on everything audit for the most part. And then, of course, I did include the application form just for your guys' awareness. If you guys have any people that you would like to apply, I'd love that. So I just want to shout out that little plug. And then I also have included a member flyer and community email that I partnered with our public information office to create. If we want to go ahead and move to the next slide. The audit committee versus board actions. I have a slide here detailing this. It says a lot more words, but essentially the difference is that the audit committee provides guidance and is a kind of a first check for internal audit for like reports or for kind of fielding some of the next steps and direction for internal audit. They are kind of an advisory function, an extension in some way or fashion of the board, so they still have to abide by sunshine laws, of course. However, the key distinguishing factor is that they do not make any executive decisions. That is for the board to vote on accordingly. That says it in a lot more words, but we can go on to the next slide. I'm always happy to go back. This is our flyer. I wanted to include it just in case any community members are interested in applying. Hopefully they can scan the QR code and they can apply. It's a 10 to 15 minute application process and it's very seamless. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself. The only other thing that I want to note here before we move it on is that the audit committee members are specifically the 3 board members that Dr. Goodwine or any board president in the future will assign, as well as the community members that apply and or get selected. Community members that apply to be audit committee members cannot be staff. Anybody who is employed by the district is not able to sit on the committee. However, of course, they are invited and welcome to join and listen in on any committee meetings. We can go ahead and move on. So what have I been doing? I'm extremely excited to share that I have been performing an initial risk assessment. This risk assessment better helps identify the organization's pain points. You know, where are we currently struggling? Where might we be struggling? Or where could we be struggling in the future? The way that I went about this initial risk assessment was relatively informal, and it was on purpose because as I made it a priority to meet with department leaders to ask them, what are things that keep you up at night? What is the goal of your department, and what is something that could get in the way of you achieving that goal on a more regular and ongoing basis? I asked broad questions to be able to field and better get a sense of some general risks that the district may be aware of. And then I also did additional research, which included, of course, the web searches and journals and articles and publications, reviewing those items for additional risks that may not have been on the district's radar immediately. And then I also was able to coordinate with different district chief internal auditors across Ohio and in Kentucky as well to better understand what are some district issues that they might be facing and how have they been addressing it. And I do want to clarify, I do have a few risks and different types of risk listed on this slide. Just because there is a risk that I've included on here or I've included in my initial risk assessment, for lack of other words, does not mean that that is a risk that is currently ongoing and material to our business as the district, Dayton Public Schools. So just because I have cybersecurity on here as incidents, it can be a high risk because it would have potentially a high material impact. However, that does not mean that we are currently ongoing or under a cybersecurity attack by any means. I just want to clarify that because that's important. So I just want to quickly highlight some of the high risk, medium risk, and low risk that I've identified. I have identified a bunch more, but again, this is just ones that I wanted to make the board aware of at this time. So high risk, cybersecurity and safety incidents, talent shortages, staff turnover would be included in that. Enrollment reductions, payroll and HR discrepancies, IT hardware mismanagement, funding changes, aging of facilities and buildings, vendor management. Some low risks, or those are some of the medium risks. Some low risks include system inefficiencies and operational bottlenecks. The way that I, again, did my first initial assessment was through research, conversations, and then I made sure to evaluate those risks on a, hey, does it impact our academics? Does it impact our finances? Does it impact our security and safety of our personnel and staff and students, of course, in our community? Does it impact the operational function of what we do and what we need to continue to meet our objectives or to further meet our objectives? We can move on. The way that I used this risk assessment was to develop our interim audit plan. So in front of you, board members, you have the interim internal audit plan in much more words than I have on this slide. However, the plan essentially highlights three primary focuses that I will be, or that I'm hoping, not that one, a different one. If you do not have it in front of you, I will make sure that you have it by the end of this time. But essentially, it highlights the project focus. So I'm hoping to start off with 2 projects, the IT hardware audit, as well as the HR and payroll consulting engagement. That would be an advisory project. And I'm hoping to focus also on developing a more formalized enterprise risk management process. Specifically, the enterprise risk assessment and analysis portion, as technically risk management is management's responsibility. However, assessing and evaluating and continuing to keep a monitoring eye on these risks is definitely within my wheelhouse of things that I want to provide as a service to DPS. And then also as an administrative focus, creating the next annual audit plan so that it does span the full year and not just the first initial months of me being here, and it aligns with the fiscal year is really important. As I take into consideration for that plan, what is our budget for these departments that might have these risks? How could audit assist these areas and these teams in better addressing those risks or becoming aware of them in the first place? And then, of course, I have a development focus. This is just ongoing professional development for myself as I continue to strive to improve, to add and give more quality of work, not only to DPS, but also as just an auditor in general. And then also there's going to be a lot of procedures, SOPs creation on my end to make sure that myself and anyone else who joins the department going forward, that we do things a certain way and it aligns with best practices and our quality assurance that improvement program that I need to make sure to adhere to for IIA standards and a lot of other things. I believe you have a document as well, but if you do not, I'll make sure that you have it. For project details, essentially there's the document that details out in a little bit more words the HR and payroll consulting engagement, as well as the IT hardware audit review. So we can go ahead and jump into the next slide. Again, this is more words in the document, hopefully, that you have in front of you. But essentially, the objective of the IT hardware audit is to better understand how we are effectively, or if we are evaluating, the objective would be to evaluate the effectiveness, efficiency, and security of IT hardware management. So that would include looking at sub-processes, which would be, asset procurement and acquisition, inventory management, asset maintenance and usage, compliance and reporting, and asset disposal. Essentially the whole life cycle of when we would order or receive an asset, an IT asset specifically, and when we would eventually dispose of it. What does that look like? The timeline that I'm estimating this audit taking me would be approximately 7 to 8 weeks, and the phases would again be planning, fieldwork, and reporting. With the nuances, of course, changing slightly based off of the sub-processes that I include in scope. We can go ahead and go to the next slide, although I'm sure that there might be questions about certain things and projects. The next project that I am suggesting is an HR payroll consulting engagement. This project will have 3 primary phases. The first one will be to document our current state of major processes that impact HR and payroll. What do they have that is a major impact on, obviously, not only their own department, but also across the district, as those 2 departments obviously touch a lot of different areas, and they have important jobs to do. So the first part would be to document the major processes as it stands. The second part or phase would be to identify areas of strengths or gaps in the process. This could be risks that maybe we're aware of and we are mitigating, or risks that maybe we haven't started to mitigate because of XYZ reason. Maybe we can strategize and find a way to do that going forward, which would be basically phase 3, which is I would uncover opportunities for process improvements, operational efficiencies, and alignment with best practices. The suggested processes include recruiting, onboarding, benefits, employee change management, and performance management, offboarding, technology use for HR, as well as payroll processes would include payroll processing and calculation, pay disbursement, payroll reconciliation and reporting, pay adjustments, and technology use. Again, there's a little bit more verbiage to it in the plan, but that's just on a high level, some of the key areas that I'm looking to look at and to detail review. The timeline would be approximately 8 to 12 weeks, and that would be from, again, the beginning of the first phase to the end of the last one, and making sure that that information can get to the board in some form or fashion, whether that's the audit committee, and then, of course, eventually the full board. I think we can go on to the next slide. Before I field any questions, I would love to give a short thank you to some of the individuals that have been instrumental in helping me achieve some of the things that I have thus far. Specifically, I want to thank DPS leaders and staff for not only taking the time to meet with me, but also to assist me in my seamless transition. I've really enjoyed getting to know our people, and I'm excited for the culture that DPS is fostering and currently has. I'm excited to be a part of it as well. Thank you to Superintendent Dr. Lawrence, Madam Treasurer Abraha, and Business Manager Dr. Jones for your support navigating district operations. There's been an adjustment for me working in academia, and I'm really thankful to be alongside and be working alongside management who cares deeply about their people and about obviously our students and community as well. I want to thank Ms. Kidd and Ms. Guerin for your dedication to the district and your daily assistance of helping me schedule meetings and knowing who to further network with. And I want to say a special thanks to the Audit Committee Chair and Board Member Joe Lacey, as well as Board Member President Dr. Goodwine, for thoroughly reviewing some of the items that you guys are either currently seeing or will see very soon. And thank you to all the board members who I've been able to meet with so far. I've loved being able to see your commitment to DPS. I'm very excited to work under you and to learn more about what drives you and what drives our district as a whole. And then I wanted to say I'm really thankful for God to grant me this opportunity to be here. So anyways, I said a lot of thank yous. I know that there are probably lots of questions, and I'm excited to hopefully answer them well.
Thank you.
How can
I see
I?
you trying to butter us up before we put you on the hot
I
seat.
did, yeah, that was well done. Hopefully, you have nice questions.
All right, open the floor
Fifties.
up. Any questions? Mr. Lacey?
I mean, this starts off pretty much the first quarter.
Yeah.
Of the first quarter's audit plan.
Mhm.
And I really, all I wanted to point out was to clarify that before this audit plan runs through completion, we'll actually be starting the second quarter's audit plan, most likely.
Yeah, so essentially the way that I've developed the interim audit plan is that it would span from whenever it is approved by the board, which I'd love to have an approval now, but if it needs to be at a board retreat or at a future meeting, that's fine. But whenever it would start, would take me all the way through July. So I've kind of made it, to the beginning of July. Because I've made it span that many months, it wouldn't necessarily impact the timeliness unless, as I still have things that I can do for that plan, even in the meantime, such as formalizing the risk assessment process or other items that would precede potentially projects that would need to be approved.
And we will be starting the next quarter's audit plan well before July.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Smith?
First, appreciate you for presenting this, and I appreciate you coming into the district and getting right to some of the things that we've talked about. I do want to lift up the HR and payroll piece of the audit. I do like that in there. Part of the suggested processes is looking kind of at also the technology use between both departments. Understanding, I think that's where you sometimes have that back and forth of, is the process the issue, or is the technology the issue, or just the way we're talking through the technology, the issue with the process. So I appreciate that piece, which leads me to the second part of this. I really do look forward to this initial interim audit plan and then moving into some of the deep dives, which is kind of, I think, why this board created, the need for this position, and saying, after we get some of these things that we have to get there, how do we dive deep into some of the nuts and bolts of what we're doing? And I just want to lift up, to follow up what you said, I want to lift up the work of our other board staff for working with you. I think that's the biggest thing for me in your role, is making sure that the district understands that this is a collaborative piece and a communicative piece, and not a I gotcha piece.
Agreed.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I want to lift up from my seat, is for everybody in the district to understand that is why you're here, is not to be an I got you. And so I think that will help us as we really need to dive in this period of uncertainty throughout everything dealing with education, that you are very successful, because that's what we want. We want you to be successful in this, and we want you to be able to feel that you can get to where you need to actually give us fruitful recommendations as a board. So I'm glad to see that one, because that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up before I had an emergency last week. So I'm glad to see that in here, and so I look forward to working with you. I just appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm really excited. And like you said, Board Member Smith, I do see audit as a collaborative experience. I partner with management and leadership to make sure that we can serve our community and students well. If there are things that inhibit that, let's address them. Let's address them together, because there's going to be oftentimes that I may not know the perfect answer, but you know what? Let's partner together to make sure that we can get to a better, perfect solution.
All right, any other questions? So let me ask the board if I could just poll everyone. We are scheduled to vote on this at the board retreat. But I do want to ask if you guys feel like you're ready to approve it today, we can vote on it today. But I wanted to poll you all to see if you want to wait another week to it, or are we good to vote on it today? Go ahead.
Madam President, I've already informed you I'm not going to be able to make the retreat. I am comfortable with this as it is, but if it is voted on at the retreat, be assured that this plan has my full approval at this point.
All right, Mr. Lacy, Coleman.
I would be ready to vote on it now, yeah.
All right, Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Lauren.
Sure. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the internal audit plan. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm gonna give the second to Mr. Lacy because his voice was louder than the one on my left.
That's all it takes. In
Thank you.
All right.
Where you going? You don't know if it's approved yet.
So, right.
Good point. Sorry. Stand at
Are
attention.
there any questions? Mr. Lacy accepted. Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Have fun working.
Now I can go.
Ready to move
Thank
forward.
you.
All right, thank you. Madam, at this moment, we have our hearing of the bargaining units. Are there any bargaining units that are here to speak? Right, seeing none. Madam Treasurer, do we have anyone registered to speak?
Yes.
Give me 1 second. Just to remind speakers, you have 3 minutes. Please, when you come to the podium, state your name and address. It's inappropriate to address any matter involving pending disputes, grievances under a labor agreement, disciplinary action involving an employee or a student, ongoing labor negotiations, concerns or matters that have already been settled and as are in nature would be deemed appropriate to be discussed in executive session. Go ahead.
Ryan Stahl,
I do not see that individual. Who's our next individual?
Joanne Williams,
Not here. Our next individual.
that's it.
All right, thank you. Dr. Lawrence, your first recommendation.
I recommend approval of the following administrative appointments.
So moved.
Second, moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Goodwin. Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
No questions, just comments. To the individuals on here, thank you for your service today in public schools. Madam Treasurer, to your staff member, I understand that it's 30 years of service, 10 or 12 or something like that to Dayton Public specifically. But really, it's very shocking, met with this employee and to hear the feedback regarding the reason why. I totally understand it, and I just hope that we can do better as a district.
Any other comments or questions?
I do have another comment, actually.
Go ahead.
We continue to see resignations and things like that on here that are months ago, or if not resignations, there's individuals who are starting after this board back in November of 23 established a resolution that no one can start prior to board approval, but there's various individuals on here who are starting without board approval or resigning months ago, and it's just now reaching us.
Dr. Lawrence, would you like to respond to, I believe the only one is the third one?
No, it's one on the other ones as well. I just wanted to make it a general on
Oh,
this
the
one.
general, so you don't have an actual question for him?
No, there's a question on this one, but if you look at C and D
Okay,
as well,
when we
it's
get there,
continued.
can we focus on this one? You want to hear from him?
That's why I said it's a general, so I don't have to say it again. But yeah, if he
Okay.
wants to address it, that's fine.
Yes, so the A3 initially turned in a resignation, and then Associate Superintendent Minor and I met and thought we could work some things out, held off for a few weeks, and then came back again and said, hey, I think I'm gonna take this new opportunity. We decided to wait a little bit longer. I reached out and contacted A3 again to make sure they were sure. And at that time, they had already made the transition, were actually working at their new establishment, so then we decided to go ahead and put it on. So it took us some time to just try to make sure that they did not want to depart the organization.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Madam Treasurer, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following DEA after July 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Smith. And to Mr. Walker's question, if someone can answer, this was effective on the 17th, and why we're just receiving it now.
No, so we only not look alike, but we sound alike too?
Oh, dang, that was you, my
Yeah, that was
bad. Make that second by Dr. Bailey.
In February.
Y'all do sound like.
For B1, spoke to Jordan Harris, the Director of Nursing, and he did the same thing. He received that, wanted to make sure that they were going to leave. They eventually ended up moving on to one of the, I think, premier establishments. I can't remember which one. No, Sycamore. Sycamore is where they eventually ended up moving to. And so then we just put it forward.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
No.
Dr. Bailey,
No.
Ms. Wick,
No.
Ms. Reinhardt,
No.
Mr. Lacy,
No.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
6 no, 1 yes.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following certified appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Walker. Same question on C4. This person was hired on the 12th. Today is the 18th. If we can get a answer on why it is before our date.
C4.
School nurse.
That one, E.J. Brown, that, you gotta help me out with that one, Dr. Davis. I'm not sure about that one.
Good evening. The reason for that one being starting before is because people are adjusting to the deadlines. Before, they could send things anytime. Now there's a certain pattern that they have to send them in, and that's, they're adjusting to the deadlines that are there now.
Can I, to clarify that, the resolution of them starting prior to board approval was passed in November of '23. We're now in '25, so they're still adjusting?
I'm referring to the deadlines that Dr. Goodwin put in place in terms of when things have to be submitted in order to make it to the board agenda.
But, okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following classified appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Smith. Similar questions on the ones on this one, if anyone can answer those for Mr. Walker. Don't all jump up at once.
It would be the same answer as before, in terms of when they submit the recommendation to hire and not making it in time for the board meeting.
Even the D5, that's from January?
I can't speak to that. That one is a change. I can't speak to that one, why we're just getting that from 122.
That would be Dr. Jones and or Mr. Anderson.
And D2 and D3 are, well, D2 especially is within the deadline that Dr. Goodwin set.
So Dr. Jones, this is more on your side here with bus pairs and bus drivers.
For the driver, we submitted the information back in January, but I believe what happened with all the other EIFs at the time weren't getting transferred over to HR. So we did, submit the names and everything with the correct information, but I think it was a software issue.
And is that the same for the bus pair that was submitted on,
January.
February 4th? It's not an 18th, and it's just not making it to us. So was that submitted to you? Was it submitted to HR? I'm trying to figure out where do we stop the practice of continuing this, if it's still making it to us after the fact?
Yeah, we have actually, they do fairly well in operations. We submit paperwork when it needs to be submitted.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following classified exempt appointments.
So moved.
Second, moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Goodwine. Any questions?
Can I pull E5 until after exec?
That's fine. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
Without E5,
Without E5.
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following supplemental appointments, or supplemental appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Walker. Same question on this one from November 2024.
We just received it from Thurgood.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So does Thurgood have a senior class advisor now?
That I don't, I have to follow up with you on that. There's usually two, a junior and a senior, so the junior one will take over. We'll have to follow up on that with you. And also, in executive session, I'll follow up on where the communication breakdown was there.
Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna say that second part you said is not executive privilege.
So,
You say yes.
spit it out.
But, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Your next
7
one.
yeses.
All right, your next
I recommend the approval of the following athletic supplementals.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walker, second by Dr. Bailey. Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
No, not you.
If we could get, it doesn't have to be today, just an update on where we are for next fall, and then what will be the steps for making sure that we're ready for next winter before we get out of spring. I'll send that over to, Dr. Jones and Chief Jones, but not for a today thing. That can be down the road. Just wanted to get it out there. That is all. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following contracts.
So moved.
Second, moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Goodwine. Any questions?
Yeah. Did we skip over the budget information?
No, that is just there for you to look at for each thing.
So that wasn't a question time?
No, it's nothing to vote on right there. It's not a recommendation either.
I get that. It was a question that I had regarding that.
Okay, go ahead, ask your question, sir.
Dr. Jones, so at our last meeting, if not last week, but in January, SROs was at 50. Now we're down to 43.
believe that number 43, we have a few people who are out on leave. I can get the more specific number for you later.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following consultant contract.
So move.
Second, moved by Mr. Walker, second by Dr. Goodwine. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following position renaming from manager to generalist with the note that the recommendation is for title change only. The salary and benefits will remain the same.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walker, second by Dr. Bailey. Are there any questions?
I'm just curious of the reason for the change.
To provide all of the direct reports to you, the flexibility to be able to use that position that's tailored and aligned to each one of our, the sections of the organization we help manage and supervise.
So the manager position will go away on the salary schedule and just replace it with generalist?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following MOU. There are two parts, the recruitment bonus for the DA, which is the second part at the bottom, and then a correction of previous recruitment bonuses. And, we are coming to the end of the corrections on that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wick, second by Mr. Lacy. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend approval of the following MOU, union step advancements.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Bailey.
Yep.
Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
And my final recommendation, recommend approval of the following MOU, OPSI Local 643 paraprofessionals.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Bailey. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Madam Treasurer, your first recommendation?
I recommend the approval of certificate of estimated resources as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Walker. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodway,
Yes?
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following resolution. for permanent appropriation measures as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Smith. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of monthly financials for January 2025 as reviewed by the Finance Committee on Thursday.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Bailey. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of official minutes for December.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Mr. Walker. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of donations for February 18, 2025 as reviewed last week.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walker, second by Mr. Lacy. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following purchase requisitions as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second, moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Goodwin. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Your next recommendation?
I recommend the approval of the following then and now as reviewed last week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lacy, second by Dr. Bailey. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Dr. Jones, your recommendation?
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend ratification of the Montgomery County ESC Transportation Pilot Program Services Agreement.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walker, second by Dr. Bailey. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Wick, Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
I affirm the ratification.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. I recommend the approval of the following board members' expenses as listed.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Walker, second by Mr. Lacy. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Insomuch as the Board of Education is committed to the continued updating of its policies, rules, and regulations, mayor and the committee which was appointed have been working towards that goal. The following are brought at this time for second reading in compliance with Board File BFC policy adoption. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Dayton City School District, Montgomery County, Ohio, hereby accepts and adopts the following policies that have been codified for inclusion in the Handbook of Policies, Rules, and Regulations. DIAC, Audit Committee Charter, DLC, expenses reimbursements. I recommend that we adopt these policies.
I second.
Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Mr. Lacy, comments?
The Finance Committee met this past Thursday and reviewed the financial statements, and they're in good order. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reiner, comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have a few things. The first thing I have is a correction. I misspoke last week. I attended the National School Board Association Annual Conference with Board Member Walker, not President Goodwin. President Goodwin was supposed to go with us and was unfortunately had to change her plans at the last moment. So I apologize for the mistake, and that is my correction. Second of all, the External Organization Committee met this last week, as well as the Engagement Committee. If board members go under my name, under new business, there are a couple of documents there. 2 of those documents are the documents that I put up last week. I just wanted to put them here again for your reference. We have my NSBA Advocacy and Equity Conference Report, as well as NSBA Advocacy Conference Notes, which is supplementary. I also put a template, conference notes template there. I spoke last week and during the board meeting and in the committee, we discussed the desire to bring the information that we get outside of this boardroom back to the district so that we are engaged and making sure that the work that we do outside of here, there's a method for us to implement and bring this information back and disseminate it back into the district so that we can continually learn and share the learning that we do. I would ask board members to please look at this very simple template that I put up and give me your feedback and suggestions. You are welcome to give me suggestions for how I can expand this. I don't want to make this burdensome and unnecessary and in make any way add to, I don't want to make busy work for busy work's sake, but I want to create a way for us to put our information down so that we can share it with other board members. So I would love to get your feedback. There is a 2025 External Organization Conference schedule for board members' information. I've gone through and put out the conferences that we have there this year. There are a few conferences coming up in March. There is NSBA conferences, OSBA, we have our Southwest region. The spring conference is March 6th. The fall conference is October 9th, so mark your calendars. A couple other Capital Conference in November is the 16th through the 18th, and Board Leadership Institute is May 2nd and 3rd. The Ombudsman's Committee, Board Member Wick has agreed to serve on that committee with me this year. That changes every year. And then I wanted to bring to your attention, the Network for Public Education is having its annual conference April 5th and 6th here in Columbus. I did mention this last week. It was announced today that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be speaking at this. I was looking forward to this conference happening in Columbus prior to the announcement, but I'm really looking forward to that. He was a congressman from one of my neighboring hometowns in Minnesota years back. And I deeply admire the way he's a friend of public education. Another thing I wanted to bring to the board and the public's attention, if you like reading really interesting policy wonk white papers, as I do, there should be a link to here, and we'll get the link put up. I wanted to bring your attention to a report by the Ohio Education Policy Institute written by Dr. Howard Fleeter. He's one of the preeminent analysts in this field, is really good at taking numbers, and is the wonkiest person that I know. Whenever I go to a presentation and he rolls up with 50 slides, I pull up my notebook and I make copious notes and I get really excited. I know not everybody feels the same way I do. He wrote a really interesting analysis of the Ohio State Auditor's Office report of the state longitudinal school finance study. I urge everybody to read it. There was in Ohio a decrease in enrollment and population over the last 22 years, and state revenues decreased as well over 22 years. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm going to let you guys read it, and I would love to hear board members' reactions and feedback on that. I think the public should read it too. Again, we will try to get that link up under my name so you can read it and have access to it. Finally, there are two pieces of legislation in the State House I would like to bring to your attention. First off is Senate Bill 48. This was introduced, and it would require the Auditor of State to annually audit each chartered non-public school that receives public money. I think this is a great piece of legislation. We are required to go through an annual audit to show where our money goes, and I think that every organization, even if they are a non-public school, if they receive public money, I think they ought to do the same thing as well too. So I fully support that. The other one that I would like to point out for the public is House Bill 97. This will distribute meals to students regardless of their ability to pay. In Dayton, we are a free and reduced lunch district, and so all of our students receive breakfast and lunch regardless of their ability to pay. As long as we are mandating that students be in a school, I believe that every single school district should give that same allowance to their students, and I support House Bill 97. That is all that I have, President Goodwin.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Thank you for that, Board Member Reiner. Yes, I did go to DC, enjoyed the time. We'll be back next month in DC again advocating. Got a chance. Our congressman was not in DC at the time, but did talk to his staff as well as a representative from this area, but represents Columbus, but still has the best interest of this great state of Ohio in DC. And then just want to say next week we do have our legislative breakfast taking place on the 27th. It was supposed to be this week. However, I will be traveling again this week, so we moved it to adjust to the schedules. Just for what's going on at the State House, right now you have the Senate is very busy with a lot of what's happening on the federal level, doing it here statewide instead. So just to be mindful of Senate Bill 3, 7, 8, 19, 44, and 56, all of which have direct impact on public education. That is my comments.
Thank you. Ms. Witt.
No, thank you all for all of your continued work and support, the staff, the team. It was a long January and February, and now it's going to be busy. I'm looking forward to some Black History programs this week and some end-of-season basketball tournaments, and to all the work you all continue to do. Thank you so much.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I want to say I appreciate everyone who's been helping out with the programs over this month. Want to lift those up again, tell people to get out and please support them. Also want to once again lift up the fact that it is Black History Month. I love lifting it up because I also understand that Black History Month is important because we're talking about people whose history has been erased. It's been talked about in ways that are not true. We've lived in a country where Black futures were rarely considered. Black presence was never really considered. We're in a district where we have the understanding that the institutions that we are currently in, most of them were built off of racism, and that is why Black history to me is supremely important, because if we do not understand those things, we will not understand each other and where we're moving. So I want to lift that up, and please, 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 just try to take a moment every day, read something, tell somebody something, share a post, do something to get that kind of information out. I appreciate that. I want to lift up the staff members in the district that I saw out at various community events in the past few weeks. I really find it refreshing and enjoyable to see our DPS staff out in spaces. So I lift those people up. I appreciate that. I will get with you, Dr. Lawrence. I know I had a conversation with our staff from Equity and Inclusion, and really have some concerns around staffing levels there and being able to meet the needs of our students in a shifting program. So I'll follow up with that on you. But I had that in my notes, so I want to follow up on that with you. And then lastly, just to our people, I know there's been so many things. Everything is a blur when we talk about politics. And I try to tell the people that I'm around, the people that I come across in this district, that we really can control. We control the things that we can control. The things that are not in our control, we can fight to do the best for our children for. And that is all we can do. And I want us to be in that mind state, because when we are in these buildings, we're dealing with a lot of children who they're either impacted by political decisions, or, to be frank and be honest, some of them are not impacted at all, because some of the decisions that are made above them do not take them out of poverty. It does not bring a parent back in the household. It does not change the history that they've been going through. So for us to understand, while all these uncertainties are going on, to keep the main thing, and that is to constantly be there for our children, because it is easy to burn ourselves out worrying about what people are doing in Columbus and what people are doing in DC and what people are doing around the world. I want us to constantly stay focused on the children that we have in this district and what we can do for them, because the things that we can do for them do not change based off policies. And that is to love them and want the best for them and try to help them. And there are board members and there are the people we deal with to go out, and there's a time and place to fight all the time. But I do not want us to get burnt out, because it is hard enough for us to appear in our best selves for these children day in and day out. So please, everyone out there, do not get burnt out on these things. And that is all I have. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey.
Yeah, there's a movie, Six Triple Action on Netflix. It's about our very own Charity Adams. I've watched it. It's pretty good. Check it out. Also, I just want to thank everybody for their presentations today. Very well presented, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Hamilton? Got any comments?
What did I say? No, my fault.
Vin Diesel?
What are you talking about?
There's a lot of action.
What is he talking
Everybody
about?
was confused on what movie it was
Everybody was like, yeah, okay, bro.
Triple action.
Yeah, Triple A.
I just wanted to say that I'm really excited to get started on the projects that were just approved. I have nothing more value to add, but I'm really thankful that the audit committee charter has been gone through the second reading and been voted in as a policy. And I'm excited to present a future policy to the policy committee around internal audit charter and what the internal audit department does, which would reflect the presentation that I just gave as well. So that's it for me.
Thank you.
Oh, and my husband's present, and he's pretty great too.
Send you back.
So I'm thankful that he attended.
Glad you drove all the way down. Appreciate you. Dr. Jones?
I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Victoria Chief Jones, she left, for the event that she put on over at Ponitz a couple weeks ago. The students were really excited. There was a lot of energy in the gymnasium, and proud of her efforts. Also, in an effort to change culture, we're going to start with transportation and IT. We're going to conduct listening sessions. So I want to implore the community to come out. We'll share dates very soon, but we want to hear from you, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to do the same thing with our internal staff members as well. Then we're going to build a strategic action plan that buttresses the academic plan, but based on the voices of our community and our staff. So be on the lookout for dates.
Thank you. Ms. Braha?
Thank you. W-2s were mailed last week. Now we populated it into our Business Plus employee online. Anyone who lost or who needs more W-2s, they can go to employee online and print their W-2s. Second one, what I have is we are working on the administrators and DSS's pay increases and retros to be paid on February 28.
Yes.
So we are hoping that will be finished. It's a big task. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence.
I'd like to remember James H. McGee, Dayton's first black mayor, 1970, 1981, when I was a kid. He was a beacon of hope for me as a young man. He was actually a regular guy. You see him all around town, barbershop, Shields Barbecue. He just, he was everywhere. So we lift him up. Then Charity Adams, named after, well, our school is named after her, and the first black woman to lead a black regiment, battalion in the Army, and of course she was great in Latin, science, mathematics, just a brilliant lady. And I'm really glad that the board moved forward and provided that additional support for Charity Adams last year to add grades 7 and 8, because they have been dominating middle school competitions now. So I thought every award at the science fair was theirs. It was Charity Adams, Charity Adams, Charity Adams, so great job out there. And then another pioneer, one of the region's first black registered nurses. Used to be a time when you were a black female, you had to get an LPN. You could not get an RN. So this woman went to Chicago, went to school in Chicago, and came back here and became one of the region's first black RNs, my mother, Eva Lawrence. So lift up, heads up to her. And then I want to start recognizing schools. I'm off track in terms of my visits. So Charity Adams, good stuff. Louise Troy, good stuff. And Eastmont, looking good out there. And then I want to thank the staff. We're back. I see my staff out there, wide awake, powering through emails and getting ready to pack it up and go home.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you. I do want to remind board members, if you haven't already, please get Ms. Guerin or Ms. Kidd your committee schedules. For the most part, I do believe that we have seen the majority of all committees coming out on that piece of it, so I do appreciate that from you. There will be our first joint meeting between the City of Dayton Commission and the County Commission on February 25th. I believe it's across the street. Feel free to come out and join. This is something that the board, as I found in the archive, the Board of Education, they used to do. So we're gonna try it and see how it goes and see if we can talk about something and just keep some FaceTime so people know that the entities do talk to each other in official capacities. It will not be a place where people are voting on things because, again, our body and their bodies, those are public sessions, but we are having conversations and discussions about things out here. Policy committee met and we got a lot of work happening. The law is changing faster than we've ever seen before, and we are just trying to keep our heads above water to make sure that not only can we provide things that we need for our communities, but we don't lose a step as we are navigating through the new world that we're in. Student Athletics Committee, we met as well. Again, shout out echoing Dr. Jones. Chief Jones and her staff continue to put on amazing events. They had a good amount of individuals. You've seen kids having fun, kids getting some nuggets of wisdoms, and adults just being able to see kind of what those type of joint programs happening. And I believe the program is actually centered around female empowerment in sports, and it is something that actually happens in February throughout the area. So I am excited that not only are we one of the leaders in those areas, but that we continue to remind our students and our adults too that life outside of athletics is a real world that we all get to navigate. I want to say too, my Black History fact today is I'm actually going to talk about my father, who was a natural park ranger, which he was not the first one, but he was often the only Black individual in the room. As if you don't know who the natural park rangers are, all those little parks around Ohio where you see Mount Sterling, Springfield, all those areas, there are people who take care of those things. And to see or to have family members that have always been in spaces where sometimes we have to be the only, it is something that teaches you what it's like to stand alone. And you appreciate so much more when you're not alone in those spaces, which in this district alone, it's good to see that so many of you guys are not the onlys in the spaces that you work in. And that you have so many people that you can not only pull from, but pour into, which one of the things Dr. Lawrence and I have talked about And I'm gonna get off the ground, probably next month, is actually a mentorship, because there are so many people in this organization that don't have former mentors. And there are so many people in this organization that can be former mentors of those people. And for us to just be able to connect at those levels, to again, continue to pour into people who need us because they don't know how to ask for it. They don't know how you formalize those things. And unless we do it, we'll have people just out here continuing to wander around. So for me personally, this is actually gonna be a women's, because, you know, I'm female. So the guys on the board can do whatever they want to pour into them. But my goal here is to make sure that we are pouring into our future leaders in this organization and doing things to help them grow professionally. It is something that even in the legal profession that we do as people become new attorneys, they pair you up with a more experienced attorney, and you get to talk about life, because that is where a lot of people need help, not just in the work themselves. Other than that, I want to give a shout out to my brother is also a history trailblazer. If you guys didn't know, fun fact, Wilberforce University, actually their marching band program stopped in the 1930s. And then in 2020, a young man named Virgil Goodwine put a Facebook post up talking about a dream of how cool it would be if Wilberforce had a band, and someone called him on that. And today, the band now has over 100 members, and they actually just achieved their goal. They've been going 5 years trying to raise money to have uniforms, and they have made it to that goal. And it's just one of those testaments that you never know who sees you in whatever space you in. And for you to always just keep pushing forward, if you have a vision in you, you just don't know who's gonna help make that come true. Other than that, that's all I have for you guys today. And Joe, I did not tell you the truth, but I at least got the staff out of here before 7:30. So we do have one more thing that we're gonna vote, 2 more things we're gonna vote on after exec session, because we have to do some things. But if Dr. Lawrence says you can go, and Dr. Jones, then you guys are good to move. And Madam Treasurer, pursuant to section 121.22G of the Ohio Revised Code, I move that this board goes into executive session. This meeting is being held to consider the employment of a public employee. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Bailey. Any questions? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwine,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yep.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Y'all be out here. Let me.
I'm a pastor, I gotta.
Sarah finished the audit and she gave us the report.
Wow. She just knocked it out. We had to wait in her back pocket.
Man.
So each of you have one, that was what she was.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, that was my biggest thing. Two things of alcohol.
He even got smaller font on his phone.
Who's that?
Chief Frank.
Leave them alone.
He got what on his phone?
He got smaller font now, but he took the word.
Where's his, did he get laced? Is he out here living? All right. Wait, I need the superintendent to come back.
He left.
No, I just called him, told him we were back.
Tighten up. This kid here.
We're legit sitting at the dais waiting on you. Can you do a light jog? A light jog? Is somebody, who has the camera put?
No, I got mine.
You
It's
got
yours.
extra, it might be extra.
See, this is how people end up getting out
No.
here, and then you have it all
It's
posted
lower.
online and stuff. and
Looky here, looky here.
Y'all be doing out here.
Yeah, we about to get started, so.
No.
Then I gotta be like Joe Lacy and put you in your place.
Anybody in the back closet? Just need to be able to get this back up live.
In there yelling.
Yes, Stewie.
Hey, should we tell you? You had to go today at the dealership.
Why you in her business?
Take a look at it.
This is all her business.
You're telling her business. That's what
Right.
he's doing.
Hey,
Ain't all in it, he just
How you know
telling.
that we wasn't looking for Sharice for a meeting or something earlier, and she told us she was at home sick, and then you like, I wasn't at the
I mean,
dealership.
maybe she was out, you know, doing
She
what
has
she
a wonderful
does.
relationship with all of you. I'm sure you know where she is.
Man, no, we don't ask her where she be.
You got an ETA on this person?
I was not home sick today, I was on vacation today.
Correct.
So that I could go to the dealership.
So you got an ETA?
Wonderful.
All right, there we
You
go.
don't have to explain yourself
All right, we back.
to none of these people.
Y'all ready?
Right, Sharice.
Y'all ready? Let the record show that the Board of Education, the Dayton City School District, has just completed the executive session during which it considered the employment of a public employee. I move that we exit executive section. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Goodwin, second by Board Member Witt. Any comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, we are going back up to Superintendent E, under Personnel Agenda, item E5. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
Oh, who?
It was in the same motion, he just pulled it.
The same one? Okay. President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
7 yeses.
All right, I recommend the approval to extend superintendent's contract for 2 years with a 5% increase in the first year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wick, second by
Dr.
Mr.
Bailey.
Dr. Bailey. It just sounds like. All right, any questions or comments? Seeing none, may we have a vote?
President Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
okay, Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
I had a comment, but she didn't see
I
me.
did say comment, my bad. Let me pause, let me pull it back, go ahead.
It's fine.
Go ahead. Say your comment right now.
I'll just say yes.
okay. Mr. Walker?
No.
6 yeses, 1 no.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wick, second by Mr. Walker. Any comments? Seeing none, may I have a vote?
President Goodwin?
Yes.
Dr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Wick?
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, and I hope to look forward to working with Dr. Lawrence, hopefully.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
7 yeses.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with Mike?
I legit looked down there.
Watch the tape, my hand go like this.
Why you ain't saying nothing like, hey, like you normally do?
I'm about to go
Dr.
in.
Bailey was sitting
Be my
right next to
super-
you, you didn't say anything.